Hey guys, welcome back. I want to talk to you today about the travel mechanics in the Broken Empires role-playing game. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say that what I've discovered over the past few weeks is that so many of you don't do travel at all in your games, which frankly blows my mind. For me, getting there is half the fun, and the idea that a GM would just hand-wave travel because reasons, it's too hard, or they don't have the tools for it, or they're just not interested in it, I don't understand that at all. Travel has always been a hugely important part of my games, both as a player and a GM, and the idea of not having it there is in a fantasy game. Obviously, different genres are going to have different things, right? If you're playing a cyberpunk game, you don't really have to do the travel of getting on a plane and going from one place to another, although you can. I'm talking about in a fantasy game where you're typically on foot or on horseback, and travel is exciting and dangerous and tiring. That is what these rules are designed to emulate. Now, I will say as well, as a brief caveat, you don't need travel rules in any game. You can hand wave it if you want, you can ignore it if you want, although again, like I said, I don't know why you do that because you're missing out on so much. A lot of OSR style games do exploration stuff, right? Where it's basically all you're concerned about is how many miles per day is the party traveling, are they running out of rations, and is there a random encounter, which typically means a combat, but not always. So that's a perfectly valid way of doing things, but my system is a little different. My system doesn't deal so much in how many miles per day did you go, but how many events per leg did you go, and how tired are you when you get to your destination? How many dangers or opportunities befell you on the way to the destination? But we'll get into that. First of all, I want to actually read you just the opening section of this travel chapter right here. This might change, but currently this is what it is. This really encapsulates my feeling on travel and role-playing games in general. So travel can be one of the most satisfying and exhilarating aspects of the fantasy role-playing game experience. It is also, tragically, one of the most underused and underappreciated, despite being a staple of so many flavors of fantasy. What would The Lord of the Rings have been if Tolkien had just skipped past all that travel stuff? A book about 10 pages long is what? A thin and stretched experience, like butter scraped over too much bread. Elric of Melniboné's entire saga takes place while wandering the Young Kingdoms. His story would be so much less interesting if he had never left the Dragon Isle. Why did we all hate the 7th and 8th seasons of the Game of Thrones television series? Well, because they blatantly ignored all the travel bits, that's why. Well, there might have been one or two other reasons too, but certainly the travel bits was an issue. Journeys in the Broken Empires role-playing game are an opportunity for the players to experience the width and breadth of the world and make them feel like they've really been there in their imaginations. In the Broken Empires, getting there is literally half the fun. I cannot stress that enough. When my players have played with me in my games where I use things like this, mechanics like this, they feel like they've been there. When they travel, they feel like they've been through the ringer and that they've seen and experienced that world. It's wonderful. So these tools are designed to help you, as a GM, evoke the Broken Empires, or whatever setting you happen to use this rule set with. You don't have to use it in my given setting. But they're designed to give you tools to increase the experience of travel, or even just use it for the first time if you don't use any kind of travel at all. Again, I very much encourage you to start thinking about all of the adventures and interesting things that can happen to players as they travel from one place to another on the map. It's the most exhilarating thing for me as a player when I look at a map and I think, we're gonna go from here to there. What is in between? What are we going to discover along the way? That's like, it's the best. In any event, a lot of games are interested in how many miles per hex are you going? How many miles per day are you going? This game is more interested, I mean, it is important in how many miles per day you're going. Obviously, your travel rate is important, but it's not so much how long will it take us to get there? That's not the central question. The central question here is, how tired will we be when we get there? And what events will befall us along the way, be they dangers or opportunities? First of all, you got to plan the route. Understanding your route is pretty crucial in many cases because the route is going to determine so much. The route is going to determine how long it's going to take you to get to your destination. It's going to determine what kind of areas you're going through, or what the GM will see as zones. There's different zones on the map: green zones, red zones, yellow zones. These all have an effect on the danger level of each territory that the players are going through. So planning the route is really important, and there's little tools in here to sort of make it a fun little mini game experience as well in terms of planning the route. But essentially the party is going to have 3 different travel duties, okay? There's going to be the guide, there's going to be the quartermaster, and there's going to be the scout. Now, all of these are really crucial for different reasons. The guide's job is to get you to your destination with as few events as possible. Why? Because while events aren't always dangerous, they are almost always fatiguing. So the fewer events you have along the way, the better as far as the guide's concerned, okay? So for every success level the guide earns, that's 1 hex on the map. So if the guide gets 6 success levels on the roll, then you move 6 hexes or 60 miles, because they're 10-mile hexes, before an event befalls you. Well, how long did that take? That's based on the terrain you're going through. So if you're going through open terrain, you can move 3 hexes a day. So if that's the case, if you've just gone 6 hexes, then you've gone 2 days before an event happens. So you have the event at the end of the second day, okay? That's the job of the guide. And again, there's a few little extra things in there, like you can force march and do all of that kind of stuff. But that's the job of the guide. The job of the quartermaster is just as important. Their job is to ensure that the party gets to their destination with as little fatigue as possible. So their job is to ensure that they've found good campsites, that they're managing the rations properly. If they're traveling along a river, that's easier to keep fed and watered, especially if you've got horses. So all kinds of things feed into that as well. But essentially, the quartermaster's role will determine how much fatigue the party takes on that leg of the journey. The leg is how many hexes you've just gone. So how much fatigue do we take in that first 6 hexes of travel? That's up to the role of the quartermaster. And then we have the scout. And the scout's job is super important, because the scout's job is to look for opportunities while avoiding dangers. So the better they do on their role, the more likely that the party's going to find an opportunity and avoid a danger. But that's not always the case, because the area that they're going through, which is based on the route that they've chosen, is going to determine whether or not that area is more or less dangerous, okay? So you can either find a danger or an opportunity. If it's a danger, you're going to have to deal with the danger or succumb to it based on how well the scout did. If it's an opportunity, you get a chance to benefit from that opportunity, or you miss it again, depending on how well or poorly the scout did. And there's a few other things in there too, like along the road, you have to check for infection. If anybody has any wounds or infected wounds, you have to make a roll to see if gangrene is set in, and that becomes really, really bad. You don't typically heal on the road, so because you're on the move. Right? So wounds do not heal, but they are susceptible to infection. So it's very vital to pick a route that hopefully goes through a green zone or goes through a place of refuge where you might get a chance to rest and recuperate and make recovery rolls. Some of those opportunities come up as well. If the scout does very well, the scout might find interesting opportunities to rest and recover. But there's all kinds of things that can happen. Like the dangers on the road could be a combat. Yes, you're ambushed by bandits, or you encounter an angry bear, or whatever the case is. Or it could be a flash flood, or it could be a forest fire, or a quicksand, or it could be a freak accident that causes you to twist your ankle or something. And in terms of opportunities, there's many opportunities. You could have the opportunity of finding wealth or magic items or interesting items, or you might find places to rest and recuperate, or you might find a reason to recover your resolve. There's all kinds of things that can happen there. So it keeps the journey really, really interesting. And it allows the GM, the tools that I provide allow the GM the tools to improvise within a nice structure that actually works. And I provide a bunch of really concrete examples too of things that could happen along the way that hopefully will inspire the GM to create their own along similar veins or using similar rules. Once you get to your destination, there's a way to sort of recover some of your fatigue if you've gained any. And once you're there, I mean, you want to hope that the destination is a safe place, because otherwise you won't be able to recover your fatigue. And that could be problematic. So yeah, it's all about creating an immersive experience for the players to make them feel like they've actually gone through something by the time they get there. Now, I will say this is absolutely crucial. If you reduce any of these subsystems into just a series of die rolls, then it's going to suck. It's going to suck. The job of the GM is to describe the world. That's like job number 1. It's the most basic job of the GM, to describe the world. So these rules are designed to facilitate that description, not replace it. That is really, really, really crucial. you never want to just reduce things to a bunch of rolls. Otherwise, what's the point? It's just like in my social conflict system, the social encounter system. If you just reduce everything to a bunch of rolls, well, you're not really playing the game then. You're just rolling dice, and that's lame. So it's the same on the road. This, for me, these rules help me engage with my players' imaginations as they're traveling from one spot to another, and it gives me a solid structure to be able to improvise interesting things that they have to deal with, challenges that they're going to have to deal with, and perils that they're going to face, or opportunities that they're going to come across to make their lives easier or not. So yeah, the travel system is pretty cool. I really like it. And as I said, it's heavily inspired by the One Ring, but I've sort of taken it and gone off in a completely different direction as well in many cases in terms of the details and the specifics. So yeah, if you've never used travel in your game before, but you feel maybe something is missing, you might want to check this out because I cannot stress enough the idea of taking your players from one spot to another. For me, that is the game. That is the immersion into the world and the setting. I want to be able to see the trees, smell the flowers in the air. I want to hear the gurgling river going by. I want to feel the temperature drop as we go into winter. All of that stuff. I want to feel like I was there in my imagination. That is the power of role-playing games. And so that is the kind of thing that these rules are designed to help you give your players. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.